I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. And if we could all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And we'll have roll call.
Kevin King.
Kip Wilnauer.
Micah.
And speak into the mic, we've got a crowd. All matters listed in the consent agenda have been distributed to each member in the Board of Zoning Appeals for study. Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda? Approval of February 19th, 2015 meeting minutes as written.
Make a motion.
I hear a motion on this side, I hear a second on this side, all approved, say aye. Aye. Thank you, that passes. Our regular agenda, we'll start with BZA 1501, a variance request from the required 15-foot setback for a fence along the street right-of-way. That's on Lakota Street, to allow construction of a fence with a 0 rear yard setback along the street right-of-way. Hello, Michelle.
Good evening, Michelle Leiniger, Principal Planner. Just to orient you to where the property is, this is near the intersection of White Drive and Grand Street. This is just east of the new schools. The subject property is outlined in blue. There is a little triangular piece that will also be included with the subject property in about a month when the plat is recorded. So what the request is, and you'll see in the staff report and later on there's a better picture, the variance request is from that new rear property line. Again, here's a different perspective. The subject property is one with the yellow star. And this is a back view from Grand Street of that entire block. Again, here's the closer view of the subject property and all the backyards. The relevant regulation, section 18.140.100C2, it goes on to state that a fence may not be constructed within 15 feet of the property line along any street right-of-way. SNAP analysis of the review criteria. State statute does outline criteria for which a variance should be reviewed against. This is just a summary. The request is not unique condition to the property. As you've seen in the pictures, all the properties right in that block and any other residentially zoned property that abuts a street to both the front and rear would be in a similar situation. The variance would not adversely affect the rights of the adjacent property owners if granted, as the fence would be entirely on the subject property. No hardship is found if the variance is not granted. The variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or general welfare of the city. And the variance is generally opposed to the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance. The intent of the zoning ordinance is to regulate land use and such, put rules in there, and that's the general intent of the zoning ordinance. Just here's a better picture. The blue outline is the final property line after the plat is recorded. The yellow line is 15 feet setback from that property line. So that would be where the applicant would be permitted, if they followed code, to have their rear fence. Obviously, the fence would connect to the side property lines and could come forward. This area, the lots are rather shallow. Taking into consideration the depth of the lot, with the setback required for a fence along a straight right-of-way, it really would create small fenced-in, areas for the backyards. I wasn't here when they platted the lots, but, that was, I would guess, not taken into consideration, the combination of the two. There is a potential for the adjacent property owners to make the same request, or anybody else, in a similar situation. This is something that, I would like to look at as part of our code rewrite, but that code change will not happen, for probably about a year. And, you know, I can't say whether that would be a change that will happen or not. We aren't to that point at having actual code language. There is a potential issue that fences being set along the property line along the street, can create kind of a tunnel effect along the road. It creates, really a small, closed-in kind of feeling, especially for pedestrians walking along the sidewalk, that there isn't necessarily a safe place for them to be. It can get really loud, if you have, close fences on both sides. If one property would not necessarily create that effect, but with the potential for adjacent property owners and that fenced-in area continuing, that effect could be created. Staff does recommend the board deny the variance for a 0-foot setback. I did, in preparation for, not having an issue like we did last time, I did write in the staff report about if the board is wishing to consider something, less more than what the applicant has requested. There is a suggested motion in your staff report. Staff does recommend denial based on the findings of fact of the staff report. The applicant is here. She would be able to address any questions that you may have, and so can I.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, and, let's see, Mary and William Hanna, are they in, come on up. Would you introduce yourself and speak into the microphone, please? You can move it any way you want.
I'm Bill Schittenberg.
Okay.
Mary.
Good one.
I've wanted my fence since before I bought my property, and the added little bit of fencing, property that the city is adding to our lot didn't mean as much to me as I wanted to be able to put my fence on my property line, my initial property line. I have a dog. I did not know I was going to have a street behind me. The builder didn't bother to say that to me as I was having my home built. And I don't think any of the 6 parties knew it either. The other 6 homes, all 6 of us that were involved in trying to get our properties fenced. We did not know that we were going to have a street right there. And I understand that the street was set up 2 years prior to that actual little bit of added development. But unfortunately, none of us lived here to get that knowledge that there was going to be a street. Then I had also heard that the street kind of moved a little bit too from the original plot plan. It wouldn't have affected our neighborhood, our little 6 homes, if it had stayed where it was going to go originally. But in the meantime, I and my neighbors need to have a little bit of property fenced in. We have children. I have my pet. and it's hard to, I mean, he's very well trained, but it's still hard to, you know, just like that, and he's gone, you know, in the street, the so-called 15 mile an hour and 20 mile an hour for school is a joke. If anybody wants to watch that joke, they could sit in my backyard and any night and any day and see how fast everybody speeds. So it's something that we all want. We have children, some of the neighbors have children, and they have, you know, we need to have the area fenced in. My husband's not well, and there'll be a time that he won't be able to walk our dog. And I can't. So, I want my fence. I don't mean to be droopy-eyed.
You're fine.
And I just, I don't understand, I don't feel that having the fence where we want it would affect anything, other than maybe the kids playing in it and throwing trash in it. Other than that, you know, I mean, 'cause the kids coming from the schools, you know, they're kids, they're messy. But I just really feel that my fencing my property, and if any of the other ones wanna fence their properties, I don't feel that would any way harm the city ordinances as far as it wouldn't look bad, it wouldn't show bad, everything would be up to code, and I just feel that we should be allowed to have our fence.
All right. Bill, you have any more to add?
One more thing
Oh,
real
yes,
quick.
ma'am,
Well,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's all right.
If we put our fence inward where
Right.
you guys tell us to put
Uh-huh.
it, it will be within 10 foot of my patio.
Right, I saw the patio.
Yeah.
I saw the property.
Okay,
Yeah, we all have.
so that was the other little ditty.
That may not be a large enough area for you, but that's still
It's
a
not
fence,
very much.
10
big.
feet. I understand. Okay, I'm just asking.
I know.
Yeah, that's about half the size of the backyard.
Yes.
We have a
So
small
what we
backyard.
could do,
Uh-huh.
that's,
Not what you
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be.
Huh?
Understand? Not what you thought it was going to be. Or were you told it would
No.
be okay?
Well, like I said.
well, we
we're
weren't
not
even
going-
aware that the road was gonna be back there.
Mm-hmm.
And, actually, from the first house, going up towards the schools,
Right.
the road goes like this, you know, and everybody's, the next properties all grow in leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
in the backyard, you know?
There's a lot more property
It-
over here, but
it-
ours graduated by about
Yeah, it's very small.
2
Yeah.
foot.
Yeah.
About 2 foot we
Yeah.
graduated,
Yeah.
but we would just really like to,
Guy up
set
in the
our
corner,
fence.
he's got 2 or 3 lots, you know?
She's not happy.
Because the way it is. But they have, high lines in the backyard too.
My understanding is
Transmission
not
lines and
everybody
stuff.
wants a fence.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't know, there is a couple
I
of the
mean,
neighbors
not that we have any
here.
control on that.
Yeah, there is a couple of our neighbors
Oh,
here.
okay, okay.
But I know that, my neighbor to my, if I'm looking at you, my neighbor to my right
Mhm.
does not want a fence.
Mm.
Well, why should he want a fence when one side of him has a fence and the other side's hopefully gonna have a fence? Only thing he'd be lacking is the back.
Mhm.
And, you know, he doesn't have children, he doesn't have animals, so it's not so much that it's a bother to him. Everyone else has children or animals or both,
Mm.
and that's the whole idea, huh? That's what we're
All right.
trying to do.
Thank you. Is there anything else that comes to
No.
mind?
Hopefully I thought of everything.
And who are your neighbors that are here?
This is Sandy, she's next door to me,
Uh-huh.
and this is Sonny and Josh. I just went right over my head, Josh, I'm sorry, and they're 2 doors from me.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sandy, do you want to come on up and say something, or you? This is the time to do it.
You need to open the public hearing.
Oh, I thought I did, I'm sorry. Like to make a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
second that.
Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry about that, I thought I did. I get carried on. I want to move on. Yes, ma'am. Either one, both, introduce yourselves and
Hi, I'm Sunny Beggart. I live at 610 East Lakota.
say it again.
I'm Sunny Beggart, S-O-N-N-Y.
Oh, okay.
G-E-R-T. When we moved into the neighborhood, I think Josh and I, our house was the first one on that particular block that was built. And we weren't, I mean,
Are
when we
you on the
moved-
east or the west?
We're on the east.
Okay,
When we moved in, it was a cornfield
Yes.
behind us.
yes. With the schools to be built.
With the schools to be built. There was rumor that there would be a street going behind us, but when we were in contact with the builders and the construction company, it was never specified where it was going to be located. It did eventually change, but I don't know if any of us, and if there were some who were aware, I don't know how many there were, that it was going to change direction. From what I understand, it should have gone straight across all 6 properties, and it eventually changed to have the curve and the roundabout. The 3 houses on the end, so if you're looking at the picture, 600, 610, and then 620, and then it's the Hannah's house. Those 3 properties gained significantly more land. I'm not sure how much more, if you want specifics, but it nearly doubled for us in the backyard, and I know Denise's definitely doubled. Sandra's is along, yeah, quite a bit. The issue that we have back there is that not only is it a busier street than we had anticipated, but the grade of the road as it goes from, what is that, Cedar to White, there's a significant hill because they put a drainage ditch in the backyard as well. So Denise, who's at 600, has that white spot on the map. That's a drainage ditch, and then there's a drainage ditch between Sandra's house and ours. So the Hannahs do have a little bit of a hill in their backyard to contend with, but we had been trying to work with the Mike Hall at one point and Mark Pottinger to try and get something put together so that we could all build what we wanted. It didn't work out, so we've moved on to, or at least the Hannahs so far, have moved on to applying for a variance. I don't know how much of a hill the Hannahs have in the backyard, but I know for the 3 houses at the end, for Denise, ourselves, and Sandra, if we were to build at the 15-foot setback, the fence is getting down into the ditch area where it would cause, has the potential to cause the wood fences to rot faster. It also does not allow for as much privacy as some of our other homeowners would have. The Murphys, who are at the very end, they constructed a fence recently within the last 2 months or so. Our homeowners association only allows a 5-foot fence, but a 5-foot fence built at 15 feet back from the property line with that gradation taken into consideration makes the fence unnecessary. You can still see over it. It doesn't provide any sort of protection, which was something that we had argued earlier. With that roundabout, if with the potential of bad weather in the winter or just poor driving skills, there is the potential for going through that roundabout and coming into our yard, a vehicle gaining momentum going down the hill. We would like to have protection from that closer to the street instead of further down the street. There was
You say that's happened?
Not yet, but the potential for it would be there. And it also, at night, for a lot of us with that roundabout there and not having anything behind us, the lights coming in through the windows is disruptive during the night. And I can attest, getting up in the middle of the night because I'm pregnant and using the restroom, there are vehicles driving up and down very fast, very loud throughout the middle of the night. It would be nice to have some sort of sound barrier there. The fence would potentially, address that issue. And I'm trying to think if there were any other, did I hit all the?
You're doing fine. You wanna step up and
No, I
introduce
think,
yourself?
yes, I'm Sandra Stewart, I live at 620, East
Thank
Lacoste, so I
you.
live right between Mary and Bill and
Okay.
Sonny and Josh. And it's true, when we bought our houses, it'll be 3 years for me in September, that I
Into the
became-
microphone?
that I became a homeowner. And, the model that we were shown did not show the road where it was. It was supposedly somewhere over in the cornfield. So that's all we knew. And, it is a unique situation in that there is a roundabout there. There's no other roundabout in Gardner. It's also unique because it's city property, it's school property, so we have all this traffic coming through. And as they've said many times, they do speed through there. We've even had 2 semis that I have seen that almost didn't make the roundabout, so I don't know why they're coming through there, but they are. So we can't control the traffic that's coming behind our house, but I know when I bought my house, I did not have a light issue, I did not have a noise issue, I did not have a safety issue, but traffic was not a problem with people with dogs who don't clean up after them. So for us to sit out in our backyard, there's.
You don't even have, at night, you don't have to even turn on our back porch because the lights are so bright back there.
So I just feel like that as Gardner residents, I just know for me, all of a sudden, it was about a year ago, I came home and there were earth movers in my backyard, so I don't know at what point, they decided and who decided exactly that the road would change, but I wasn't informed and I certainly wasn't asked. And, I'm trying to understand the reasons and rationale behind it, but, for the 6 of us that live there, and as far as I know, there's only one who doesn't want the fence, and like Mary said, he'll still have fences on both sides. To my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, at one point, and we have been in communication with the city for this almost 3 years, and we've been back and forth, and, have heard different things from different people, and not all of it agreed. So to me, that was a little bit confusing and a little bit of misinformation. So I'm trying to clear that up as well, but, at one point, the city said, was it the city or the zoning people, said they would give us a variance if all 6 of us could agree on the kind of fence we'd put up.
That would have been my call.
And if we would put it up at the same time. So in other words, you put it up, it's on your nickel, but it's gonna be by our standards, and it's gonna be, on our time frame. And I just, so if the variance is gonna be given, but now it's not, I don't understand. And as far as the tunnel effect goes, you ought to see it from where we live, you ought to see it from our angle. And my house in the back, there is such a gradient going down in that ditch. I mowed it last week, and I was doing this to hang on to my mower. I need an ATV mower to mow that back there. And I don't know why it was ever, that ditch was dug that deep. So these are questions that I have, and I don't know that I've ever really, had those answered, but I do feel like we have the same rights as every other Gardner citizen to our privacy, to our safety. So I guess I would like you to take that into account as well.
I would also add that, Michelle did talk about the tunnel effect, if everyone were to put a fence up. There is a giant open field on the opposite side with a sidewalk on that, if people didn't feel comfortable walking along the 6 properties that would potentially have the fence line, there is that opportunity to walk across the street, which many students do on a daily basis, and then cross at the roundabout or further down, closer to the school district. But there is no, school speed zone within that stretch. It stops before, the apartment complex ends and does not begin again until you're on the, western side of the roundabout, which is something that maybe the, school district or whoever is in charge of that might want to extend that school zone, because there is a significant amount of students walking in that area where cars can go significantly faster if they so choose. And I did see, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, a police officer, had pulled someone over, I'm gonna assume for speeding, I don't know. I was over getting my mail, but, they do try to patrol the area, but after school's out through the evening and throughout the nighttime, people do speed through there. So, it's just something to take into consideration, as well as the fact that, there is such a large grade between the street and the ditch in our yard back to where it comes up, that it would be nice to have some privacy. That, I'm not sure how much that affects the Hannahs, but I know it certainly does for the three of us on the end.
You say there is a, neighborhood ordinance or neighborhood?
There is a homeowners association. It's not, strictly enforced, but there is one.
Have you approached them about a fence?
We have, we had an initial meeting with Mark Pottinger and Doug Luther. Doug Luther is the president of the homeowners association. This would have been March of 2014. We had them walk the property lines with us, and, while they did agree that they could understand wanting to build a fence as close to the street as possible, for the homeowners association specifically, we requested to have a 6-foot fence put up, since it is a much busier street than other areas within the neighborhood. Doug Luther said that he would look into the bylaws and let us know if we would be able to petition, to, request, an exception to the rule, and then he later emailed and said that that was not a possibility because of the way that the charter is written. You cannot, petition the neighborhood and ask for a request. We would basically have to dismantle the, HOA, which we can do at this point since our neighborhood is, fully developed, Willow Springs, not Plum Creek. Some of the homeowners had also attended a meeting, later that spring to ask, the homeowners association board if we, what sort of, rules or regulations they would maybe suggest, or how strictly they're going to enforce this. And they said that, we're supposed to have 5-foot picture frame fences, but there are so many different types of fences within the Willow Springs neighborhood that it wouldn't be something that's enforced off the record. We could build it 6 feet if we wanted. They weren't gonna come around and enforce it, but once they left office, if new members came in and measured, we would be forced to take it down. So while the city allows for a 6-foot fence, the homeowners association does not.
Have you looked at the west end of that street to see what they did in
The west
Plum Creek?
The west end has a, wrought iron fence along portions. They also have some wood, fence up around there. But those,
Mostly on East Grand, it's wrought iron.
Yeah, the school district
Correct.
did the wrought iron now.
No, the school,
School district paid for the wrought iron.
I don't know if the
That's what
school
I was
district
told.
paid for the wrought iron, but I know that that was there before, the school district was built. Josh and I had driven around over there. But it looks like part of the wrought iron has been dented in significantly.
Car hit it,
Yep.
nobody wants to fix it.
Right.
And that's the potential that we see.
Yeah.
Because we live closer to the roundabout that.
Well, a wood fence, I mean, it's just, but a wood fence isn't gonna stop a car from coming in your.
We've
back.
also looked into concrete, a stone fence or a stone form fence as well.
But that, on that, of course, I'm kinda speaking out loud here, but
Okay.
even then, you still, it's an insurance type of thing. If you put an abutment up, there's other things, that if somebody runs into it, it's on your land, what?
Right.
It's like people knocking over mailboxes, and they go out and put an I-beam in there, and somebody, people go around and knock off mailboxes, and they put up an I-beam, and a car hits it, why, you can, there can be repercussions.
Sue the homeowner?
Yeah.
We
But it's,
understand that.
I understand, but that's just something, but
Right.
wood's not gonna stop. I understand, I know that's a busy road and everything, but
What I'd like to know is how close do you wanna go to the sidewalk?
We would like, when we were in discussions with Mike Hall and Mark Pottinger trying to get the contract for all 6 homeowners, we were told that we would be able to have a 1.5-foot setback off of the sidewalk, which for those of us would put it at the top of the hill. But along with getting that 1.5-foot setback, we were told within that contract that we would have 18 months from the day everyone signed to decide what 2-month period all 6 homeowners would build their fence. It had to be identical in structure and design. We were responsible for paying for the construction payment and maintaining it, and there was something else. There's something else along with that, I don't. We're responsible for mowing the grass on the exterior of the fence as well. I'll think of it in a minute, but there's something else that was in that stipulation.
We had even at one point, because we've been to the homeowners, we've been to the city, we haven't been to the school, but they were involved.
We were told to contact the woman about the benefit district to see if the school district would be able to help put up a fence, because the school district did put up a fence for the other Willow Springs homeowners going from the west side of White all the way over to the end of Willow Springs where the football field has been put up, but nothing's been put up for the 6 homes in between. There's fence along Grand Street for that goes up until the house on the east side of Cedar to the school district, to Moonlight Elementary, and there's fence put up on the west side of White all the way to the football field, well, past the football field, for any home that butts up to the school property. The school district did put up fence for that, but they don't, no one wants to help put up anything for the 6 homes that are an island in the middle.
So
Maybe
we,
together.
our desire had been that they could all work together and help with this fence, and it hasn't happened, but it, when I signed my contract, I tried to get, the builder to put an exception in there about a fence, and he refused to do it because he said, I don't know if you're talking city, if you're talking school, who you're talking about to get to build that fence. So the only thing I've got is that they would try to get some type of a fence put up. So it's like you can't even trace back as to who told you what when, and so.
Well,
It's
are
really-
you folks planning on putting on the same type of fence? Is that what you're planning on doing? Are y'all planning on putting, I mean, you're not gonna have, you know, like a red, pink, and green, you know, I don't know. You know what I'm talking, are y'all planning on putting?
turquoise blue.
That'll work. But are y'all, I mean, is everybody planning, is this,
The 3 of us, we're just thinking fence, and I think that we could work together. I also think that we can work together with Denise on the end. We don't know how to go forward, so we're just kind of at a stalemate. I don't think that we'd be hard to work with, or, but we just don't know how to.
well, I don't know if all of you kind of got together and it's in this neighborhood here and all of you decided to put up
We've
wood
tried,
fence,
but we
a
were.
wood fence or a
Little-
chain link fence or?
We're not allowed to have chain link fence,
No,
but
we
that's
can't.
what we were.
A 5-foot fence is what you're asking.
Right.
Basically, all of you, or I say all of you, one, or whatever, anyway,
Yeah.
basically you're asking for a 5-foot fence to be placed. What you would like to do is set it 1.5 feet off the sidewalk. Is that what you're
Correct.
asking?
Especially for those of us that have such a large hill in the backyard. And I know that there are pictures of it. I don't know if you yourself have physically walked that particular part of the street, but there is a significant hill, and 15 feet down from where the property line is puts it into a ditch for us. And it therefore makes no sense for us to even build a fence. My husband and I and Sandra have talked about doing something different, possibly putting in a hedgerow, but even putting in a hedgerow in our backyard for Josh and myself. We also have overhead power lines that we have to contend with, and the rules, from what I remember a while ago, and I don't know if they've changed, requires that any vegetation that is planted back there, this is mostly for a tree, the top of the tree has to be 20 feet,
Depending on the
10 or
voltage.
20 feet.
It depends on the voltage.
Yeah.
Voltage, what the voltage is, it depends on, there's all kinds of different clearances, because you can have everything from cable TV to your high voltage. And
We
everything
also have
requires a
that in our
different-
backyard too.
Yeah, it all depends on a different, what it carries, what it does, there's gotta be a clearance for each.
Right, and so I had specifically
Yeah.
asked the electric, Gardner Electric, and I can't remember if it was 10 or 20 feet below the lowest power line, or 10 to 20 feet away from the pole. So if we even put in a hedgerow, as we want to, as close to the street as possible, so we have privacy. We now have to have it swing around where these power lines are
Yeah, but you won't be able to put any
posted.
vegetation under it, though.
Right, and so we have a fence, but now we have to keep this within our property, and then Sandra and I split the drainage ditch on our, side property line as well, which is something that we have to take into consideration when building or planting anything. It's made it kind of difficult to try and come up with some sort of privacy and protection, that we like, that we think the city would be okay with.
Well, you can plant flowers and such stuff as that, like, you know, but
We
you
wanted to
can't plant
plant,
a tree.
right, and we
You know,
wanted to
or-
plant, like, my husband really likes the trumpet vine, I like lilac and honeysuckle, but in order for those to actually grow, we would have to put a post and chicken wire to have it grow, something that's not allowed by our HOA.
Very good.
So we're kind of up the creek with all of this.
But we had also been told at one point, and I don't know if it was Mike or Mark, that in fact, they came out and walked it and was talking about landscaping and what they would put there if they.
That was
couldn't
Doug
move it.
Luther and Mark Pottinger at the first
In
meeting.
the fence, they would landscape, and that didn't happen either.
Unfortunately, neither of them are here anymore.
I understand.
You know, and
Yeah.
and so we're moving on.
Right.
There's a new man in town that you could talk to after tonight, right over there. Not him? Oh, whoops.
Oh.
Michelle, Michelle looks like she's, is there anything else, ladies?
I don't think so. We have, I have talked to Michelle, once we found out that Mike Hall left. We weren't informed that Mike Hall left. I'm not sure, I think it was the Murphys had contacted the city about building their fence.
Okay.
And we're informed, so we did, speak with her, but at that point, all homeowners were frustrated with the situation.
Sure.
And so we haven't really moved forward with it, with no prejudice to Michelle by any means. We understand that that's
Okay.
kind of.
Well, our job tonight is make a decision, yea or nay.
Okay.
Okay, I appreciate that. Is there anybody else that would like to address this situation? I'd like Michelle to come back then. Michelle, I got a few questions. How did this road all of a sudden become oh, what a great idea. I know you weren't here then.
I was not. The road was originally platted to go through, which if you look on your screen, it was originally platted to go through here.
Okay.
So it actually just shifted further away from the properties. The road was put in when the schools were going to develop, so that was the trigger to make those connections.
And the roundabout was put in because of the schools or because of traffic flow?
I would, give that
Well,
one
you
to the
know, I
public
mean,
works
again,
director.
It's a design situation.
It's a design situation.
Right, I mean, we shifted it further from White Drive or the Lakota Streets, roundabouts and traffic circles, reduce the number of conflicts that occur at an intersection, so that the accident pattern's a lot different. It's glancing blow versus head-ons or
Mhm.
broadside. It's actually a really good concept, and when the property to the north develops, we pull a fourth leg off of it at that point. It was just kind of a traffic calming, a good design for that area.
Just a minute, ladies. You know, let us, I'm directing it back to the city for a bit.
But again, the road was originally planned to go straight east and west, and it was shifted.
So it would have been closer to all those homes.
That is correct.
Originally.
That is correct.
And
And that's for the increase in property. The school district, I believe, had some property there as well as the city right-of-way that was originally platted along there, and so that's what, providing that to the homeowners, increased the lot size.
And I can understand how, looking at the west end, the wrought iron fence is basically right next to the sidewalk. And so I could understand how that misconception could be continued.
And I don't know how that fence got there. We do have provisions in our code for when you're planning to do a, landscaped area along the street, which allows for a fence to be installed in that, closer to the street.
Most people was
we-
superintendents that they did it.
Okay.
I don't know.
That could have been, we might have been around for
I
that.
called only because I was curious about it, you know?
Uh-huh.
And the school superintendent, I spoke to him personally, and he said they put it up there.
Okay.
The school put it up there.
But they're no
Had
longer,
nothing to
they're
do
no
with
longer
you
in
guys.
charge of that fence.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
On the first house, the very first house in the west end, the one that's got the most property, and it's got the power lines in the backyard, does their property line, does it go clear back to the roundabout?
It would go within a certain distance of the sidewalk.
Okay, well, I didn't know if it went clear back, or if it...
No, it's
Okay.
usually, it varies, it's usually
Pretty close.
2 to 5 feet from the back of the sidewalk.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering if, I don't know, the way it was put together there, would look like, say, with the easement and everything for the power lines, and then, of course, the drainage right there, I didn't know if the city or something took it over from that point on to the north.
Well, the city right-of-way is in there.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, the property owner, they're responsible for mowing and everything in that first house, clear back to the...
yes,
Oh, clear.
the property
Oh,
owner
okay.
is responsible for the property to the street. You can see on this picture,
And the grassy
this
area.
right here is the rear property line, so there's a certain distance from the sidewalk to the property line.
About how, I don't know if you know how much for gauge is that, do you know, between the property line and the sidewalk with the blue line there, or whatever color it is?
I thought I put it in the staff report.
I don't know if
It's roughly 5 feet.
just 5 feet?
I thought it was 2, Michelle.
No,
No.
5 feet away from the sidewalk.
yeah, something,
If you look between the blue and the yellow, that's 15 feet.
Yeah.
So that between the
Okay.
sidewalk and the blue is about a third of that, so it's pretty close to 5 feet.
Okay.
Does anybody have any more questions to Michelle, first of all, or city staff?
Earlier, just it looked like you were wanting to say something when they were mentioned that the original group fence was gonna go like 1.5 feet from the sidewalk, or?
yeah, what that situation was is we were looking at, drafting a right-of-way agreement. That would allow for the property owners to install a fence off the property. That's not something we typically do, but it was something that, we were looking for as an option. That was 2 feet off the sidewalk. That is no longer an option because we couldn't get all of the property owners to agree. We did have some stipulations as the city, if you're going to put a fence in the right-of-way, this is what we want it to look like, this is how we want it to be installed, because it's within the city right-of-way.
What was you asking, what, do you know, just what you were asking for, what type of fence, or what the city was asking? I guess.
What Sonny had told you is
Okay.
what was in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That was not a variance, it was a use of right-of-way agreement, being that it is on private property, or public property, since the board is the avenue for grant variances on, private property. I just wanted to remind you that what is before you tonight is a variance for 630 East Lakota only.
Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Hannah, did you have something you wanted to?
I was just mentioning, when we started all this discussion with the neighborhood, our neighbors, I saw, and I don't know, Michelle, I guess you haven't seen it, there was I wish I brought it with me, but there is a map of what the street was supposed to be.
Right.
And if you, I can.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, because what is what is.
Well, right,
Yeah, I
guess I was
understand.
just
Yeah,
gonna
we
say that
understand,
it
yeah,
was
how
supposed
you-
to be further to the
Yeah.
other side of the street,
Mhm.
not to
Yeah.
our side. It was supposed to be further to the
Sure.
other side, more into the cornfield than where.
Yeah,
the
but we gotta
road-
deal with what's there right now, so,
Yeah, well, true.
Thank you, Mrs. Anna.
That's true, we'd have to deal with.
Come on up.
As far as, the thing when you guys were talking about the roundabout, one other concern, and this is what I had forgot earlier, was, for the potential for the roundabout to connect to Main Street and eventually be a thoroughfare, to bypass the trains, would significantly increase the traffic that's already going through there as well. And then the, right-of-way that the city had constructed for the 6 homeowners was something that either all of us had to sign or none of us were going to get it. There were some that were wanting to work with the city and others that were adamant about not. And so that made it difficult for us to try and move forward with.
well, that's, with the setup, that's, I
Right.
can see what the city's trying to do.
And we
You have
under-
to have the whole thing set up, you know, that's what,
Right.
just trying to work out a deal, but there's, and like you say, it's an island, but everybody has to work together on the same thing, or else
Right.
the city couldn't, you know,
And-
well, everybody had to do the same
So we
thing.
had
Right, and I understand that.
Yeah.
two neighbors that didn't want it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Do I hear a motion to close this open meeting? This portion of the meeting.
I move to close the open meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 It passes. So now, what we do is talk amongst ourselves, based on what we heard, and give our opinion, individually. And then collectively, we'll vote on this issue. And as Michelle said, it's really about Mr. and Mrs. Miller.
Right.
Okay.
Anna.
Go for it.
I don't know if you could pull up again a picture that shows exactly where the ditch is behind this property. Maybe that last one. Okay.
Well, for me, the way that's set, and from the picture here, and I know what they're talking about. For one thing, a fence would help folks living at 630. It would give them lights, wouldn't be coming in their back window all the time. The only reason I'm, you know, it's, this is just kind of, it's one of these deals where this is a situation that I think we need to have we need to allow a variance and put it up closer towards the sidewalk so that it would give them privacy. They can only have a 5-foot fence. That would give them privacy and cut down on the road noise. And because of the way the lot is cut so short there, that would give them, you know, their backyard and everything. Otherwise, it's gonna be set right either right at the edge of that, other side of the ditch there, on the bank of on the south side. And they'd have to put a gate in or something to get back into the back to mow it. And the way that's set up, you don't want the fence sitting right on the sidewalk, you want it to set back at least 2 foot, I think. That's what I would think.
I'm sorry, I just want to briefly interject,
Right.
that it would be helpful to go back to the 5 factors, addressing those as part of your discussion.
Okay.
The 5 factors of consideration, which would ultimately be the basis for granting or denying.
Yeah. Well, as it said in here, it's kind of a unique situation, the way this is all set up, with the way the lay of the land, the shortness of the curve of the street. You've got a drainage ditch in their backyard. You want us to go through each variance? Is that what each of the 5?
Well, I guess those in which you're disagreeing with the staff support, 'cause it's not just the unique feature of the property that's of consideration or at issue.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration as we let each speak. Thank you.
Well, I'm sympathetic to the property owners here, but I'm not really sure what, kind of leeway we have as far as these guidelines go, the criteria goes for any variance.
I personally don't think we have a leeway. There's other solutions for this property owner. I think the city has tried to work with the homeowners for a long period of time, but, you know, there might be some other possible solutions for this homeowner, for the safety of their dog.
Not this time.
Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a motion for BZA 1501?
Now, I don't wanna run into a problem like we did last time, of course, you left us down here, so,
Yeah.
you know, if we're gonna do something, let's go ahead and talk about it now, and not, you know, otherwise.
I could make a motion, can't I? I thought so. I thought the chair really is like everybody
Yeah.
else. I would move that, we deny the variance, on this motion, on this, BZA 1501. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Now, you're saying to keep this,
I'm saying we cannot approve this variance.
well, I'm gonna go with the.
Okay,
first.
so
Do I
I'll
get
say it
that?
again.
Why?
I'll say it again. Do I hear a motion for this, that I just said no to this variance? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, yes. All opposed, say no. That passed as a denial. Okay? We close this portion of the meeting. Yes, Ms.
Am I
Hannah.
allowed to ask why?
What's that?
Am I allowed to ask why it was refused? I mean,
Because
there's
it
gotta
does,
be a reason
well,
for the
yeah,
refusal.
there is, and just the 5 items that you answered and the
Yes.
city answered together, you know, and they didn't agree, because you would like it, and the city says it doesn't match our rules or our regulations, and so that is what happened. We sided with the city to deny your request. I personally think, I understand it's a small area to put a fence, I understand all that, but, the dog fences, the electric ones, would be an opportunity for you and your family and your dog, as I see it, but it's not my dog, so, you know.
And absolutely, I would never do that to my dog. I don't understand how you can say no to a 5 feet. I mean, good grief. I don't understand, what does that affect the city? How does that affect the city? That little bit of property. I have one of the shorter of the six,
I understand.
and I'm serious.
Right there, Michelle. Thank you. We have a second item on our agenda this evening. And it would be BZA 1502, a variance request from the Gardner Municipal Code Section 18.140.100B1B for the construction of an accessory structure at 439 North Center. Variances requested include to allow for a 1,280 square foot accessory structure from the permitted maximum 1,000 square foot. To allow for an accessory structure to exceed the height of the primary structure, requesting an 18-foot tall accessory structure, while the primary structure is approximately 16 feet in height. And the accessory structure size to be 83.7% of the size of the habitable living area of the residence, while from the required 1/3 or 33% of the residence. We are opening, do I hear a motion to open this section of the meeting?
Yeah, are we moving to open the public hearing?
Open the public hearing.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passed.
Good evening, Travis Olds, planning technician, excuse me. Before you is item 2, we have for consideration, as just read, 3 separate variance requests for an accessory structure to be built at 439 North Center Street, shown here, highlighted in yellow. Kind of a background is how this request has come before you. Currently, the property is unplatted, and the applicant approached our office in wanting to build an accessory structure. Prior to issuing a building permit, the property would need to be platted, and we then realized that there would be additional need for request of variances, and that's what we're discussing tonight. But just to give you a little bit of a background, so we're starting with a variance request, as stated, to construct an accessory structure at the subject property. To highlight those 3 variances to show what the code currently allows: number 1, that the maximum size is 1,000 square feet. The applicant is requesting to exceed that by 280 feet for a total size of 1,280. The second variance would be to allow the accessory structure to exceed the height of the primary structure by a total of 2 feet in height. And then the third is that the accessory structure could exceed what the code currently restricts as a 33.33 or 1/3 of the size of the habitable living area of the current dwelling on site. So to get into that in a little more detail here, to break that apart, we're going to start with the structure height. A couple of things to consider here with similar, the same criteria we just discussed as established by state statute. The height of the proposed accessory structure is to be approximately 18 feet. The primary structure itself is 16 feet. However, there are some conditions of the site based on the natural contours of the site and whatnot, that if the structure was built as proposed, shown here on this size, on this slide, it would actually be pretty equal to the height of the principal dwelling. if you can see those elevations I've highlighted there in red, you kind of see how the property lies as it slopes down from 1,036 down to 1,034 down to 1,032. That's to show that, and the applicant is requesting to build this structure, that really the ridge lines of both the primary and accessory structure would be pretty equal. And staff feels that in addition to some of the other, going back to the previous slide, in addition to some of the other elements of the site with the landscaping of trees surrounding the entire site, you also have structures within the area that are 2 stories in height that would still maintain the integrity of the zoning ordinance and allow for the applicant to build this structure as proposed as far as the height is concerned. The other item dealing with structure size deals both with the overall size of the structure and being 1,280 square feet again, and then exceeding that 1/3 of the habitable living area is being proposed to be about 83.7% of the living area. The building itself does comply with all other setback requirements as required in that zoning ordinance. In order to comply with the 33.3%, the applicant would be able to build a structure up to the size of 510 square feet. So he has essentially requested a building that doubles the amount of what would be allowed as a maximum size. There is an existing 2-car garage on site. I will make mention that the proposed structure is desired for the use of storing vehicles and boats and other equipment that are currently being placed on the applicant's driveway, as I understand, as well as to provide space for some woodworking hobbies and other work to be done as a part of this structure, separate from the home itself and anything that is currently available for their use. In general, as a staff analysis to review, the request in allowing for the size of structure as proposed is not a unique condition to the property. It's something that doesn't meet the hardship test of what is outlined in state statute, but is brought about by the desire of the applicant to have a structure at a particular size. He would be allowed to reduce the size of the structure and still comply with all standards and be able to essentially have an accessory structure, not to the size and the intent that he would desire, but still in allowing the spirit of what the zoning ordinance has established. As a part of that, staff is recommending for item 1, denial of a variance to increase the maximum allowable size for the accessory structure. Staff recommends as item 2, that there be an approval for the variance to allow the accessory structure to exceed the height of the principal structure. And to reiterate, that's going to be a difference in height if the building were to be measured from ground to ridge line. Visual height, you wouldn't see any such difference. It should be fairly equal. And then item 3, that staff recommends denial of a variance to exceed the maximum 1/3 of the habitable living area for the accessory structure.
Mr. Graham? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob Graham. I live and own the property at 439 North Center. It's about a block north of Madison on the east side of the street. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I'm just going to make a few comments. I have a few slides I'd like to show you of the area, and then that's it. Start out with, as long as I can remember, I've had 2 hobbies in my life. One's woodworking and one is cars. And both of those take a lot of space. Woodworking is developed into building furniture. Tables, bookcases, wall-sized bookcases, etc. Many of those projects take large equipment, plus start with 4x8 sheets of plywood. Take a lot of room to get things started and get them working. Currently, I'm unable to do any of my woodworking. All of my woodworking tools are in storage. I have absolutely no place to set anything up, and that's part of the reason for this variance request. Secondly, the cars, I do some work on my cars, my older cars. What that's done is done in the driveway. They sit on jack stands for a couple of weeks at a time if we've got a bigger project. On a funny note, I have a neighbor that comes by periodically and says that it's starting to look like the previous owners were back, because evidently they had a lot of junk cars in the area. So that's kind of where we're at. My property is bounded on the east, on the east and the south by North Center Apartments, the Gardner Estates, and the State Fair property, which is the parking lot on my east.
That would be the county fair.
County Fair, yeah, sorry.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Johnson County Fair.
Yes.
The few pictures that I have here, the picture that's up there now, this is a structure that is located on some property 2 houses south of mine, on the corner of Madison and Center Street. That I would estimate that building is approximately 40 by 40. That's a shot from Center Street. That's a shot from Madison. The next 3 pictures are just from Center Street looking back in, kind of like the picture Travis showed you of the view back into where that building was set, which is very limited visibility no matter how you look at it. The building would actually go back in behind where that pickup is sitting along the side. There's another one from farther back. This is one from my sidewalk right in front of the house. As you can see, it's very dark back in there. And these were just taken a week ago. I mean, nothing's in full bloom yet. Here's a picture of the backyard. All of the things that you see in there between the apartment and my property is on my neighbor's property. It's a rental property. The building would actually go in. There's a little tree that sits right in front of that white shed on my property. The building would go between that and the tree that's closest to you, is where it would sit. That's the back line of my lot, next to Johnson County property, with all the full-grown cedar trees, which really blocks it off. There's another kind of wider view of the 2-story apartments. The Gardner Estate Apartments you can see on the left back in the corner there. And that's a sample of the building. That structure is a lot bigger than what I'm looking at, but it gives you a view of what the building would look like. And that's everything I have.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Graham? No? Any questions for Mr. Graham?
What exactly, were you wanting, or were your reasons for wanting the building to be this size?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to do when I retired was that was gonna be my full-time job, was my woodworking, my cars. Currently, I can't do any of that, basically, without sitting out in front of my house and doing it. And that's the reason for it, to be able to set up a wood shop that I can conveniently work in. When you look at it size-wise, yeah, it's a fairly good-sized building. But if you get a couple of cars in that building, maybe a pickup that's 18 foot long, and try to get table saws, routers, shapers, planers in there, you're not talking about a lot of room. You're only talking about another 10 or 12 feet to keep all that woodworking tools in. The overhang on the left side that you see there, that's an accessory area that I can move a lot of stuff outside and work on it out there as opposed to being inside of the building with all the sawdust and all of that that's going on.
I guess my question is, did you check this out before you bought your house?
What we found was, yes, we did. And what we found, have you tried to buy a ranch house in Gardner? It's next to impossible. And us getting older, that was our primary requirement, is something that didn't have a lot of stairs. Secondly, to find a ranch house that has access to the rear lot, the rear end of it, is next to impossible. This had that. I checked personally with the city. My realtor checked with the city, and our understanding before we bought this property was that I could build a 1,000 square foot building. Well, what we found when we looked at it a little bit more, we didn't ask enough questions, or the information was not conveyed that the third of the living space was a requirement. So that's where we are. Money-wise, it was affordable. I found a lot of places with buildings, $250,000, $300,000, 10 acres. I didn't want that. I can't take care of 10 acres, and I don't want to now. So that's why we're where we're at, and with the information we had, we felt we were somewhat okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Graham? Yep.
And so these, the vehicles you're wanting to include or for the use of this building, they're vehicles that you're working on and not just vehicles you're storing or recreational vehicles? Or something?
Yeah, they're recreational vehicles, what they are. I have a 30 Ford and a 66 Chevy that I continually upgrade and improve, those types of things. And then I have a pickup that would also be in there.
So those are hobby vehicles?
Those are hobby vehicles, yes.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to close this open meeting?
I make a motion to close it.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pass. Okay, we're open to discussion.
Well, I just agree with the city on this. I don't see, and there's a two-story house on the side of them to the north. And as he said, the land drops off to the back. So the 16 feet or the, what was it, 16, that was his one? 16 then.
16 foot tall.
Yeah. So that'd be okay, because like I said, there's 2 stories, and he loses 2 to 4 feet on the way as you go back. And the city says that's fine. I agree with him on that. Well, 18.
18 foot?
Yeah.
Would you go ahead and pull up the first?
Yep.
Yeah, not the pictures. Go back to the opening statement. You had it just a moment ago. Words, verbiage. Back one more. There you go. Understand?
House is 16, and they go ahead and go up to 18. But I don't believe we need to have another house behind the house.
I know, I have some friends in the same area, same boat, and they've been searching for 4 years for what you are trying to do, and not even in Gardner anymore, they gave up Gardner.
We looked for 2 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
and, husband and wife have 5 vehicles, similar to yours, and, you're right, they can't find anything in Gardner that fits the criteria. And they've looked elsewhere. It looks like it would be a good place. It's kind of hidden, but it just, well, I would agree with the city. And do you have anything to say?
No, I agree with those points, about the size of it, I can't really go along with the justifications, but that far outside of the size limitation.
Okay, as I understand it, BZA 1502 is asked for variances to allow for the construction of accessory structure at 439 North Center Street. And the staff recommends denial on part 1, number 2, approval, but number 3, denial. So, do I hear a motion to deny 1 and 3?
I'll make a motion.
Second? All in,
You have to act separately on each one.
okay. Could you withdraw that motion?
Is there a section? Would you?
Well, looking on the screen,
Okay. stick
you
it.
know, I just offered up 1 and 3, and we cannot do that.
It's also page 8 of the staff report.
That would be staff recommendation for number 1. Do I hear a motion, the staff recommends, and from this committee, to deny a variance on section 18.140.11110B.1B of the Gardner Municipal Code to increase the maximum allowable size 1,000 square feet for the construction. This accessory, would go 1,280 square feet. And, do I hear a motion to?
I'll make a motion to deny. Number 4.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
They agree with denial. Okay. Number 2, staff recommends approval, but staff recommends the BZA approve a variance from the section 18.140.100B.1B of the municipal code to exceed the height 16 feet of the principal structure. An accessory structure of 18 in height at 439 North Center Street. Do I hear a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I second it.
I hear a motion and second to approve this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Number 2. Number 3, recommends that the BZA appeals denies a variance from the section 18.140.100B.1B of the municipal code to allow for an accessory structure to exceed the maximum 1/3 of the habitable living space in residence at 439 North Center Street. Do I hear a motion on number 3?
Make a motion to deny.
To deny.
I second it.
I hear a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 3 is denied. A little bit too big.
Can I make a comment?
Sure, I'll listen.
In talking to Travis, a couple of times that I sat down with him, he told me to come in here and be open and flexible and listen.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm suggesting is would you be willing to look at that without the overhang? That gets me back in with within the 1,000 square feet requirement.
You know, I really wish you'd have done that before we had this session, if that was a suggestion that was made.
So now I start all over again. I won't do that.
I understand.
No.
Is there any other business?
I had just put the reminder under other business for, knowing that you're getting the agendas last week for the meeting, the training that was yesterday. If you're unable to make it, the city clerk will be sending out a makeup time. I don't know that they have set that time or date to, make that up yet, but we'll let you know if you were unable to make it when there is
Thank you very much.
second time. Other
All
than
right.
that,
Thank you for your
Oh.
input too.
Sure. Just wanted to introduce our new,
Yes.
planner.
Yeah, oh, planner, I'm sorry, I put you on the spot.
This is Chad Barr. He is our, new planner one. He will be doing the majority of current planning, which is, the applications that we get in on a regular basis. So, we're excited to have him here.
Thank you for being here and joining us, Chad.
Thank you.
All right, exciting nights, aren't they? Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Very good, all, and do I hear a second, all in favor, say aye. Whew, you brought the motions tonight, man.
I guess, I know.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey there, folk, slow folk. Yeah, that'd be you. Oh, happy face. There you go. I hope you have to walk off the aisle. No, my wife wants me to put right there. You wanna ride?
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to throw that
Oh,
at you.
no, you're fine. Keeping me alive till back home.
Good luck. Still sprinkling?
I don't know,
Sprinkling.
sprinkling.
I think it's about like, it was hitting pretty hard a little bit ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I guess more than
That's
one
still,
per meeting.
what you got, they got your call.